What is good, gentlemen? Today I'm going to be telling you some of the deadly mistakes that you might be making when you're cold approaching or just talking to people in general. I'm going to tell you some things you can do to fix those and also some of the mindset shifts that you have as well as just some cool tips that I've learned across the years that can really help you with whatever it is your goals are in terms of cold approaching and social aspects of things. All right, cool. So let's get into it. So I'm going to tell you the number one biggest mistake that you'll make when talking to a girl or just introducing yourself to anyone, especially if they're a higher value individual who you're trying to network with or potentially have a business relationship with. So that biggest mistake is going to be pedestalizing that person. So if you go up to a girl and say, "Oh my God, you're so beautiful," you just put her value way up above yours. So you don't want to do that. I always try and approach people from a standpoint of us being equals. So this is the same thing. I mean, I saw this Tristan Tate interview, and he said one of the biggest mistakes that people can do when they introduce themselves to a higher value person is to be like, "Oh my God, I'm such a big fan of your work," and all these things. If they just shut up and said, "Hey, it's nice to meet you. What's your name?" Even if you already know who that person is and it's super obvious, you still just do this and you try and introduce yourself as an equal, you have a 10 times better chance of actually developing some sort of fruitful relationship in the future where you can be business partners or network with this person instead of trying to pedestalize them from the start. And the same goes for girls. So this is something you need to cut out altogether. So that's the biggest mistake, and how to fix this is going to be your introduction when talking to people. So this is huge. The way you go up to someone and your first initial impression is gonna be massive. They say a lot of that, how that person judges you and perceives you is coming from that initial introduction that you do. And what I found to work best is just gonna be a very simple "excuse me," right? So you get their attention first before you speak. And then, "What is your name?" That's it. Just ask for their name. That's as simple as that. And you got to follow it up with stuff. So that's going to be one that you can use for anyone, right? This is how I talk to girls. No matter if I'm at the beach, the gym, the nightclub, I always ask for their name. And I always say, "Excuse me." The reason why is you want to make sure that they have your attention before you start speaking, right? I don't want to just start speaking, go halfway through, and them say, "What?" and then look stupid. No. So I make sure before I start saying my question, I make sure that they have my attention, that their attention's fully on what I'm about to say. And to break this down a little bit further as to why I asked for their name is one, there's no pedestalizing, right? We already went over that. And two, people have been programmed since they were kids to respond when they're asked a question. So as long as you're not coming across weird and making them seem like they want to run, right? If this is like a girl or something, they're going to answer that question and say, "Hey, my name is Julia." And then, now is when you start to understand, this is where the practice comes in, but you're going to understand the level of reciprocation and how interested they are in having this conversation with you. So if they're like, "Oh, hey, my name is Julia. What's your name?" "Sebastian, it's nice to meet you," right? And I usually just go into "Oh, you from around here?" no matter where I'm at. And they're like, "Yeah, I am. What about you?" And then you start talking and you say whatever, right? If you're in the gym, "What are you training today?" "Cool," this, that. You can go into a million different things. Don't matter, depending on the situation. But those are just the two things that you can kind of take if you don't know where to go in terms of starting this. Is your introductions, "Excuse me, what is your name?" And you just say, "Oh, you from around here?" That's usually what I use. Next, I'm going to give you an easier version. So, asking for their name, this can be very neutral, but it can also set you up for a lot of success because let's say you're in a nightclub, for example, and you're talking to a girl and you go up to her and say, "Excuse me, what's your name?" You've obviously shown some level of interest. There's hundreds of girls in this club. You decided to go up and introduce yourself to her. And if you come smiling, looking nice and friendly and showing interest, it's probably because you like her, right? So there's that can be a little bit intimidating for some people, especially if you're not in the nightclub and if you had some drinks and stuff. That's what I do everywhere. But one thing you can also do, which I do, not on purpose, is you can ask environmental questions, right? So if you're at a gym and it's late, you can ask, "Hey, excuse me, do you know what time the gym's going to close?" That's such a neutral question that they're just going to answer it. You don't have to, there's no interest shown. You didn't come up to them specifically asking for their name and things like that. That definitely elevates it. but it also has a greater return on investment. You know, doing something like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. There might be that one girl out of like 100 that has that fuck yes energy that really likes you and it works out, but you're gonna have so many rejections and it's not gonna go well so much of the time. But environmental questions are taking it completely to the opposite side of the spectrum, making it super easy just getting that question. And then you can see once again, how is their level of reciprocation to further this conversation. And one thing you gotta know, and this comes after that introduction, is when to abandon a conversation and the best way to do it. So if you're really not feeling that reciprocation, this is going to come with time after talking to hundreds of people in tons of different situations, not just girls, but guys, you know, everyone, young, old people. You get to quickly feel that level of reciprocation in terms of how much they want to have this conversation and where you can see it going, right? So if they're really not interested, some of the things you can look at is like their feet. If their feet are pointed directly at you, that's a good thing. But if they're already trying to like walk away, if they were like, oh yeah, the gym closes at 11 and they're already going this way, trying to be like doing their thing and going back to their set, they're not interested. Thank you so much. Have a nice day is all you have to say, right? You need to keep your honor in terms of cold approaching. You don't want to come across as someone who's, you know, you don't want to desperately push yourself into a conversation with someone. If they don't want to have this conversation, then there's work that needs to be done on your part, right? You're either, you know, not looks maxing, you're not in shape, you don't have anything going for yourself, because if you did, you would be getting a very good response from the people that you talk to. They would want to, you know, network with you. They would want to be business partners. They would want to, if it's a girl, date you, all these things. So you need to make sure that you're approaching this from a standpoint of, you know, understanding that if they're not interested in this conversation, that you can abandon it. And the best way to do that is just say, you know, oh, if you ask for the name, oh, it's a pleasure to meet you, have a great day, right? I do that all the time. If I see someone's not interested, you don't need to try and force this to make it something that it's not. So that's a really important thing as well. And now in terms of the mindset going into this is huge as well. So whatever it is your desired goal is from cold approaching, let's say you're getting into this to talk to girls and you want to have a girlfriend, or you just want to see some girls and things like that. You need to detach from that outcome and just start focusing on having social interactions and talking to girls and breaking down that barrier. Because if you do detach from that outcome, it will naturally come over time. But if you just put so much pressure on talking to this one girl and making this into a relationship, or trying to sleep with her that night, or all these things, the pressure you're putting on is going to make you mess up. It's going to mess up everything you're trying to do and that progress you're trying to make, which is really just to improve socially. And as you do improve socially, the thing is that you're going to get all this in the long run anyway. So once you just let go of that outcome, right? If you want to make friends, you just try and be a more friendly, sociable guy and talk to people and not really care about what comes out of it, if you develop that friendship or not, because you will just start making friends. There's going to be people on a similar wavelength who are open to meeting new people, and they're going to be like, oh, this is just a cool, you know, it's a cool guy, let's hang out sometime, right? It's not that complicated, but the biggest thing is really just trying to focus on the actions that you can put in. So whatever it is you want, girls, friends, trying to talk to those people and do it day in and day out, instead of trying to focus on the results and the outcome that you desire now. Okay, so that's for the mindset. And one last tip and trick, like if you're a guy trying to get girls, don't just focus on talking to girls, talk to everybody. I can't tell you how many times I have gone to the club on the line, chatted with like a couple guys while I'm just waiting to get in. Just introduce myself like I told you, I always do. Just say, oh, what's your name, bro? Nice to meet you. Where you from? Small talk, right? And for example, right now I'm in Sweden. So if like I go to some different cities and go to some clubs, people are always excited to meet me, being that I'm American and they don't see too many Americans here. And then there's all these girls in the club that they know, right? So here's the cool thing. So I introduced myself to all these people, started having some guys who I can, you know, go say hi to and all that. And they will introduce me to all the girls. I don't even have to do the cold approach. I just talk to some guys. And because I'm in a situation where I'm like a high value individual, right? Where people, you know, want to meet me. They think I'm cool, whatever, because I'm American. I've been on my shit. I've been in the gym. I try and look my best. I have a successful business. They want to introduce me to people. They're like, "Oh, this is my American friend," right? And they'll be giving me the intros. And I've literally talked to tens, time and time again, just because I talked to some guys first, right? So this is that whole thing of being social, detaching from the outcome, and just trying to be just that nice, sociable person, and it's gonna pay so many dividends. Don't just try and focus on talking to like the one hottest 10 that you see and then getting upset if that doesn't work out, right? It's just talk to everybody, be super friendly with everyone you see. Girls that you might not even want to be with or sleep with, still just talk to them, talk to guys, all these things, because you never know how all the dots connect and how these things can, like I said, pay so many dividends. That was just one example that I used time and time again, and it works every single time. I can't even explain how many times that I've gotten introduced to like the hottest girls just because I've developed some friendships and relationships with guys, especially like in the spots that I go out in long term. I mean, I just developed some, solid, guys that I'm cool with, and they'll be introducing me to girls all the time. I barely have to do that introduction. And then once again, it's the same line. "Excuse me, what's your name?" Or I don't probably have to say excuse me if I'm being introduced, but I'll be like, "Oh, hey, it's nice to meet you. What's your name?" Right? It's the same thing every single time. Obviously, little variations and things like that. But I hope that this really, provided you with a bunch of value in terms of cold approaching and how to be social. This is coming from someone who was an extremely shy, introverted kid who now can make friends going anywhere in the world. I'm able to make friends and, like I said, have all these great social interactions. So if this provided you with any value, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you've already been doing some of these methods that I just taught, or if you're going to start applying them. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day, everyone.